Hello, welcome to Lesson 22. I'm Jason with CodeLearner.com. Here we're going to talk a little bit more about initializing variables and declaring variables. This is stuff that we've done since the very first set of lessons here, but we want to spell a few things out and just make sure you've realized them consciously. Before we've done things like initiating variables, or this is called declaring a variable actually. At the beginning, when you actually just specify what type of variable it is and the name, that's called declaring a variable. Initializing a variable is when you take a variable that you've declared and you set it equal to a number like this. So this is a perfectly valid program that is compilable and runnable. Here, this step here is called what we call declaring a variable. That's when you declare the type. This is called initializing the variable. Now, it's perfectly fine if you want to do this. You can do Boolean variables like this, yeah, and then after you declare them, you can specify what they're equal to. That's perfectly fine. There's no problem with that. However, it starts to get lengthy if you start declaring every variable on a separate line and then initializing every variable on a separate line. It's going to create a lot of stuff at the beginning of your program. So Java gives you a lot of flexibility in how you declare and initialize your variable. So instead of just saying integer, call it JSON, and then initialize it down there, I can just say integer JSON is equal to 10, and I can do that on the same line. So this does two things at once. First, I'm declaring the name and the type of the variable that I have, and secondly, I'm initializing that variable to an initial value. So if I print this value out, it'll say 10 because that's what's stored in there. All right. You could do the same thing with all the other variable types. So instead of saying character and then down here set it equal to something, I can just say character Gibson is equal to single quote $sign like that, or single quote capital R like that, or something, and hit a semicolon, and then I have set the variable Gibson, which is of type character, a value which is equal to the capital R. All right. Now a couple more things. Let me go ahead and erase this. Not only can you declare and initialize on the same line, you can actually declare and initialize multiple variables on the same line. If I just want to declare three variables, I can declare A, B, C all on the same line. So I haven't initialized anything. I've just reserved the names and the types. Here I can then say A is equal to 10, B is equal to 15, and C is equal to 7 if I'd like. That's going to work fine. However, I have even more flexibility because, for instance, I can say integer A is equal to 19. Then I can put a comma. B is equal to 4, comma, and C is equal to 8. Okay, notice how the red disappears. So I've done a lot of things at once. I've said, here's an integer. We're calling it A. It's equal to 18. Integer B is equal to 4. Integer C is equal to 8. So if I'm declaring multiple variables of the same type, in this case integer, I can declare them and initialize them all on the same line, and that saves a lot of space. And in fact, I don't even have to initialize it. Let's say C here. Let's just take that out right here. Then what I'll have is system.out.println like this. What do you think is going to happen when I do variable A? Well, the value of 18 is going to go there. Let me copy this, drop it down. What do you think is going to happen with variable B right here? Save, print that variable. This is value of 4 right here. And then finally we'll put value of C. What do you think is going to happen when we do C here? Uh-oh, error. And you go back here and you look, and then it underlines C here, and you hover over it. It says local variable C may not have been initialized. And that's exactly true, because here I set A is equal to 18, B is equal to 4. I have declared variable C, but I haven't put anything in there. So I can either say C is equal to 11 right here, right? And I can run that. Everything works. Or if I just want to be consistent with what I've done above, I can set it equal to 11 right up there in that same line, and there you go. So basically, this is a lesson in just showing you the different ways in which you can declare variables and initialize them. Basically, you can declare them all on separate lines, and you can initialize them all on separate lines. Or you could declare them all on the same line and then do your initialization later. Or you could combine everything all together and declare and initialize your variables. Now eventually if you have 15 variables scrolling off to the right, this gets cumbersome, but for 2 or 3 variables it's very easy to read, and then you can pop down here and then do it again. Jason is equal to 7, for instance. So there's nothing that says you have to do it all on one line. Those are the different options you have available. Just keep in mind, declaring the variable is just when you specify the name and the type that reserves memory for that variable, and then initializing the variable is when you actually store that initial value in it. That's why it's called initializing the variable. So after you understand this, go off to the example that we have. It's a good little example to give you practice with what we've done here, and check your work at the conclusion of that.